My name is Heinsohn. I'm the creative director of the so-called Science Dome, which is a new dome theater that's still under construction, and we plan to open next spring 2019. And that dome theater, the Science Dome, is a 20-meter dome placed or situated in a new science center that's being founded in the city of Heilbronn, which is in southern Germany, close to Stuttgart. So if you like have a look from far away, it would be say 2 to 3 hours away from Munich.
This is a science center, but it has to do something with the arts, or crossing between arts and science.
Yes, actually probably has to do around with my background. My personal background is that I have been producing and curating content, artistic content for domes for 15 years now. I was actually one of the first people in Germany who produced full dome content, so I have a long history with the medium, and actually I came in touch with the Science Dome last year, or let's say 1.5 years ago, and they asked me that they had a lot of technology, a new dome with many technical gadgets, and they knew that would be a technically a very new concept to placing dome theaters, but the big question was what to do with the technology, because the dome is not only a full dome screen, we also have a rotating audience. We can turn the audience from a so-called full dome mode to a stage mode, because we have a stage where we can play theater plays, we can make concerts, live concerts, lectures, and that so-called stage is below the full dome screen, and it is equipped with a water curtain and a traditional cinema screen and lots of many other media devices that really complement each other in a way that you can really be interdisciplinary in displaying and performing or staging arts and sciences. So the big question is what to do with the technology that we have, like starting with the technological concept, but also to how to use the technology to create a new concept for a dome theater or dome cinema. Because the history of domes in Germany is very much linked to planetariums. So the idea of using a dome derived from displaying the sky, the night sky, and to simulate astronomy or astronomical concepts or ideas. So nowadays it's really the big question: how do we transform the idea of a dome into visualizing knowledge and how to engage people? And I think it's not only about displaying sciences, it's more about how to engage audience, using aesthetic concepts to create the sense of immersion in a emotional and also in a scientific sense. So stop me if I'm talking too long. I tend to talk very long. No, but the big question is simply, what do we do and how do we develop this medium that has been used a lot for creating presence in different places and creating immersive understanding of three-dimensional complex structures, also of ideas, of scientific ideas, and how do we tell the stories inside that 360 medium? How do we use the arts to understand that, or what role do the arts play in that context?
So the arts are like playing a role in terms of how to use the art, but focusing on science. That's what I understand.
Yeah, well, actually, it's actually a very complex question, because, for me, it's very hard to separate arts from sciences, because arts themselves is a science as well. So that is very, very hard to separate these disciplines. So in the end, I think it's more about creating a presence and creating a empathy for the audience, to engage them into a certain subject, into a certain mood, into a certain location, into a certain presence. And the general science center has a tradition with natural sciences and technology, so that's the roots where we come from. But nevertheless, when you talk about, say the topic of velocity, we were planning a show about speed, the topic of speed. When it comes to speed or velocity, trying to make the audience experience speed and to reflect about speed. So you think a lot about physics, like relativity theory, but also it comes to a level where it's about the meaning of life itself. So how do you increase your personal or decrease your personal speed? Then, for example, there's a big question for audiences. Many people nowadays say that life or speed of life increases. But then when you take a look at the watch or the clock, like time still remains the same, time doesn't change. But due to the influences that we're exposed to in life, many people get the feeling of life increases in terms of speed. But that's only to the fact that of the number of media that you're confronted with in life. So that's a big question. How do we expose ourselves to the question of speed? And then it can come to a very aesthetic level, having flights and immersive fly-throughs, but also could be a big question of dealing with media impulses and how does the brain work and how do we enjoy time. So it could also be of enjoying arts, it could be enjoying listening to music and to increase your speed, to question yourself, wonder about what is your personal pace. And we interviewed a rally driver, a national champion, a few times national champion in rally driving, and I think he made a good statement that really sums up what we're trying to achieve with the show. Is that he's used to having the thrill of riding really fast with his car, so he's doing rally races and rally driving, and he's driving very fast. And I asked him about this thrill and why he does that, why does he do that racing over and over again? And he said, like it's kind of art of controlling speed. Like everybody can go fast, so you can really put down the pedal in the car and go rush as fast as you can. But that's not about art. The art of leading your own life. It's more like using the brakes, using the forces, using the G-forces. Enjoying the speed and controlling speed, or being in a mood of the right speed. So it's about decreasing yourself, and so there's a lot of philosophical questions to this topic of speed. It's not only technical or scientific questions that we have about that.
Before we used to talk a lot about art, science and technology. Nowadays we talk more and more about art science. But as about like art science collaboration, art science links, if it's possible for artists and scientists to collaborate. From what I was listening to what you're saying, I still hear like this is very much oriented to science. Well, it is a science center.
Yeah.
So regarding the science center or not in general, as a more abstract or applied thing, what do you think about these possibilities about linking art and science, or artists and scientists? I mean, I know you was giving some examples from your perspective, but if you try to go a little bit like more conceptual about that, you think it's really possible, feasible, interesting, out of just applying, okay, how we can through art questioning certain things, or how we can through art making something you want to communicate through science more easily understandable.
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually, when we go back to the Science Dome, well, the title of the dome itself is Science Dome, but nevertheless, I think it's an open process in the Science Dome. So the big question is, what do we do? What do we show there? It's not only where we use the arts as a medium to illustrate the sciences. It's more like that's a starting point where we start from, and we go beyond that. We try to go to beyond that and try to elaborate what we want to perceive in the dome. So we will definitely have art sessions, and we'll definitely use the space to give it as a stage to artists to develop their own questions and to explore the space, to find new topics and set new impulses. So I mean, the previous things that I've been talking to have a very strong direction that we're heading for. But also I think it's an open space where we can be without straight direction. We can go back and forth and look for the big question, for a very, very open end, what like probably the arts can do or arts can deal about.
And my last question is like, you have been doing project in domes for 15 years. So how do you see the scene, even here in Germany? I mean, the actual scene or the future of this approach, working with full domes, here in Germany, or in general terms, if you prefer, as you prefer.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think nowadays it's a very interesting process because, like, Planetariums in Germany have a long history of being standalone institutions, and that's the reason why there has always been some links between art scenes and planetariums. So planetariums in many cases were open to experiment, but nevertheless, or still, when I talk to other people from other countries, sometimes they ask me about the scene in Germany because they feel like there's a lot of stages, that the arts have many opportunities in the dome. But still, I feel art has to find its place in the dome. Still, it's very strongly that art is something like a luxury thing that you can do after 10 p.m. So, and giving the arts themselves a stage where they can be the purpose itself, it's still a process. There are things that make me optimistic, and to be honest, there are things that keep me skeptical about it. So it's hard to put it, to sum up it in one direction. It really strongly depends on where you go and to what location you speak to. And there's some locations that are very, very open for experimenting, but there's sometimes the big question is still of budgets. How do you finance arts? How do you trust in the arts being an attraction themselves, not only serving as a luxury thing for other purposes? So, I mean, that's a very pragmatic approach about in the everyday life approach. So that's what I experience about planetariums. I think also what keeps me optimistic is that there are a lot of other contexts beyond planetariums where domes emerge in various different contexts. Besides the job with the Experimenta, or the project with the Experimenta, I'm curating a film festival, traditional film festival in my hometown, and the film festival dedicates to films from the Nordic countries, say from Greenland over to Estonia to the Baltic countries, and they have a 60-year-old tradition. Actually, this year is the anniversary, the 60th anniversary, and it focuses on the film work, the films that have been created in the north, and that's a very specific type of film. Many of us know, like Lars from Trier movies or Aki Kaurismäki from Finland, but beyond them there's a lot of a very specific language that the Nordic countries have in their film storytelling. And 3 or 4 years ago, I initiated a mobile dome as part of the festival. So now for this year, it's the 3rd year that I'm going to curate a dome, a 360 cinema, being part of the film festival. And that's a big chance, because that's the point where we don't have to tell the same story that film does, but we have to go for the borders, like the framework of film. What's the framework of film and what's beyond film? And it's a very open concept for that dome. So we're doing 360 video, we do full dome video, certainly. That's like our core message. But beyond that, there's installations, there's performative arts in the dome. So there's audio installations, there's a lot of plays. And that's what I enjoy very much, because there's no definition of what the dome needs to be. It's really like an add-on to a long tradition to films. And that's a really exciting place. And I notice in various places, and also with the VR scene, that it's very experimental, very much looking for new opportunities, very exploring, very active, many energy going into the VR scene. And somehow I do also mingle or mix the VR scene with 360 scene at that place. But knowing that I'm not the only one, it's really interesting, because that creates new rooms, new spaces, and we're losing the planetarium history at that point. And I think the arts benefit from that, like having a proximity and also having a distance to a planetarium. That helps the arts themselves a lot, I think.
Thank you so much. Today is May 26th of 2018.
Thank you very much.